So thank you to everyone that is joining us. This is going to be one hell of a panel here. I'm going to ask everyone, if you're not speaking, if you can put your video off. We got over 400 people coming on already, and we got more coming. So we want to keep bandwidth so that we can make sure this doesn't have any problems. So if you have to leave it on, that's fine. But if you can, shut your video off. That will help with bandwidth. With that said, let's get going. This is Noah Rosenblatt. I am from UrbanDigs. I am very, very, very proud and honored to be running this panel. These are unprecedented times, and we need discussions like this from experts like this to guide us. And we got a great panel with you today. Let me just run through it. We got Rory Golod, president at Compass New York. We got Fred Peters, CEO at Warburg Realty. We got Bess Freedman, CEO at Brown Harris Stevens. And we got David Walker, the co-founder and CEO at Triplemint. Thank you all for joining us today. Great stuff. I'm going to go right into it. This is going to be a question for all of you guys, all right? And most of these questions is for all of you guys. But let's just start out real high level here. Real estate's not often known as the most nimble industry. We've always been forced to kind of create new ways to do deals. And in this environment, this is especially true. So my question is, what has been the reception to these changes by your agents, buyers, and sellers? And Rory, let's just start with you.
Well, thank you, Noah, for having me. Excited to be on the panel and joining everyone who's joining virtually. You know, it's in terms, to break it down into the three groups you asked, I think first in terms of agents, I have been not surprised by the level of ingenuity, entrepreneurship, and thoughtfulness that our agents, and quite frankly, agents across the market have taken to this. You know, this is an incredibly uncertain and stressful moment in everyone's life, especially for people who derive their income from transactions and don't get a salary, right? So in a moment in time where a business that is basically built upon human interaction, and all of a sudden we're told that actually human interaction is dangerous, the fact that all of our agents have managed to come up with creative ways to still service their clients, and the positivity I've seen from agents in terms of wanting to help one another, whether it's not just with their business, but also on a human level. You know, I heard of a story the other day of one of our agents who was able to purchase thousands of masks and donated them to Elmhurst Hospital. I mean, like, I'm hearing about people opening up homes that they were trying to rent out, you know, as an investment, but are giving them to healthcare workers. I mean, so the reaction I've seen from agents has been incredible. And to manage through that uncertainty is really commendable. On the client side, I think what we're seeing now is, you know, the expectation around buyers is, okay, this is a time where I can get a deal. The expectation around sellers is, this probably isn't great for me. That's the expectation. I think the reality is a little different. We went into this in a market where you had low inventory, you had low interest rates. And so I don't know that the expectations of buyers thinking, wow, I'm going to get an amazing deal have fully manifested yet. And I don't know that sellers have yet come to terms with like the new reality of where they're going to be selling their homes. And so I think it's probably going to take another couple of weeks for that to come together and for the market to fully work in what's actually happening.
Can I just say something quickly, Noah? I just want to comment. Rory, I think that part of it, at least in New York City, you know, we have been in an oversupply market and in a buyer's market. And so I think that is still a challenge. And I know that the question is, will there be a further correction coming down the pike? You know, agents are talking about that because we were already in a buyer's market. So the question is, what will be once we are able to show again? And I think agents are really, you know, struggling with what's going to happen, and our price is going to be renegotiated, like what Fred and I were talking about before. So I think agents are learning to adapt to this new virtual. They're doing videos, live streaming, like we're doing all of that at Brown Harris Stevens. But, you know, there is, as you know, Fred and I say this all the time, we have very similar philosophies. This is a people business. It's a relationship business. It's you know, our clients want to hear from the agents. They want to understand that they're, you know, with them and helping them and supporting them. So I think it's been a challenge for everybody. And I just want to say, if everybody read Peggy Noonan on the Journal this weekend, she said, you know, that everybody's been saying we're in the same boat. We're not in the same boat. We're in the same storm. Some people have yachts. Some people don't have boats. And I think that applies to firms as well as agents. So we really have to take care of each other in this environment.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Fred, same question to you.
Yeah, it's as far as the agents go, my agents are, as Rory said, incredibly resourceful. They run the gamut from looking with great positivity on the options that they're going to have as showings begin again, to the ones who are already trying to calculate whether or not now is the time to lay down in their bed and pull the sheet over their head and never get up again. But I think for all of them, the reality is that Rory said that he thinks we're a few weeks out from knowing how the market's going to settle. I would amend that to a few months. I actually think that it's going to take a while, just the way it did to me, even though no situation is really analogous to what we're going through now. It's closest in my mind to 9/11. You know, what I've been saying to my agents is that what this really resembles is an alien invasion. And if we want to understand what's happening, we ought to be reading H.G. Wells and not economists. But given that, I think we're looking at a fairly extended period, probably throughout the summer, during which the market tries to find its footing. And so really, and it's interesting because I had a Zoom meeting with my entire company, as I do every Tuesday and Thursday at 10 this morning. And we were talking about what the most effective strategy to approach that is. Is the most effective strategy that you bring your exclusives back on a line at the price you had them on at in February and then see what the market tells you? Or do you want to try to get ahead of it by lowering the prices 5 or 7 or even 10% to try and calibrate in where the market is going to kick off? Because it was a good 10 to 15% where the market kicked off in January 2002 after the fourth quarter of deadness in 2001. My guess is that's what we're looking at too. We're not looking at the 30% drop, but we're not looking at the 5% drop either. That being said, to fine tune that, it's just too soon to know.
Right.
Yeah, and not only that, I did a look on my system and I found since March 20th, we've only had about 300 deals signed. 300. So that's extremely low. So we're very dislocated. We're very thinly traded. And if you think about when those deals were signed, when are they going to close? Right? So they're probably not going to close for at least a couple of months minimum, right? And then Acris has to file them. So we're probably not going to get that price discovery until late summer or fall. And that's when we're going to see how bad the dislocation was just a few weeks ago. But David, I want to go to you.
Wait, no, I just want to say one thing in response to that, which is that I really think that goes back to what Bess was saying about how this is a time when we really have to work together. Because if there was ever a time when our agents are going to need to share signed contract prices with each other, this is it.
That intel is gold at this point, especially in these thinly traded, dislocated markets that we're in. David, you guys got some good technology going on over there. So tell me, how are you guys dealing with this, and what's the reception been, changes for agents, buyers, and sellers? That first question.
Yeah, thanks, Noah. Thanks, everyone. Great to be with you all. So, for us, I don't want to repeat a lot of the things that the other panelists have already discussed. Like, we're seeing agents step up, be super resourceful, whether that's, just in deals, but also in, finding ways they can help their communities, volunteering, expanding the networks. We're also doing some things at the company level, and I think it's interesting when we look around different industries, right? Seeing some of the car manufacturers build ventilators. I mean, how inspiring is that, right? Like, what's our version of that in real estate? I mean, I can't build a ventilator. I'm guessing most real estate companies can't, but trying to see how can we sort of do our part as an industry. So this morning we launched a new program, fee relief program for renters. We kind of looked at who is the population most in need right now. And I think there's a lot of people who have had their financial situation drastically change that are in rental apartments whose leases have ended over the past 6 weeks. So launching a company-wide effort to help them. I think that's going to be something that's really exciting, and extending that out to all healthcare workers as well. I think there's a lot of institutional things we can do at the company level. I totally agree, Fred. And Bess, it's the time we have to come together. We've done some interesting things on our site, putting out sort of a video tour request for buyers, and actually having that send a bunch of information to agents, regardless of which firm they're at, not in Triplemint branded, just helpful tips and guides we've put together on how to take videos of a property, or encourage an owner even to take a video tour. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can be creative as brokerages, not just as agents. But yeah, I've been really impressed by our agents' response. And Noah, 300 sounds really low to me, just based on what we were seeing. That feels like that's too low, but yeah, we can discuss more.
Yeah, exactly. I hope so. All right, listen, this is going to be for Fred and Bess. All right, I want to talk about firm-wide, because we got two tech firms. We got some legacy firms here. So I want to kind of divide that and put a little boundary in the middle. So Fred and Bess, and Fred, we're going to start with you first. From a legacy brand perspective, what is the biggest challenge that you've seen with this crisis, and what has surprised you the most? And Fred, I think you're on mute, so I think we need to unmute Fred.
I unmuted myself. I just don't want whatever background noise I've got here to be disturbing everyone. And I also just have to jump in, and I know I'm going to get slapped around a little later by this, and because of this, and I accept that. But I'm sorry, Compass is a real estate firm. They're not a tech company. Now, moving right along.
We're gonna get to Rory. We're gonna get to Rory.
No, I love it.
And Rory knows that I think he's a terrific guy, so this is in no way directed at him. I just have to say that. So, I'm not sure that it really matters whether you're legacy or non-legacy. I feel like we're all facing the same issues, which is, first of all, what buyers will do transactions in this environment. For us, that's the really big one, that if you're dealing with the vast majority of buyers, they aren't buying from the video tour, no matter how good the video tour is. I wrote in one of my Forbes pieces recently, a picture may be worth 1,000 words, but only an in-home visit is worth $2 million. And I think in general, people aren't buying what they can't see. They may tee up to buy, but they aren't buying unless either they can see it or they've seen it already. The deals we've done at Warburg in the last 6 weeks have been all situations in which they had seen the property already. They had seen the property before the shutdown. So I would say for us, our biggest challenge really is the same one that I'm sure David is having and Rory is having. I know Bess is having it. It's figuring out what the effective way to keep ourselves and our product in the public eye is. And now that we're approaching the moment at which showings are going to be starting again, we're really going to have to figure out the messaging we're using to get people engaged in the market again. And I think that actually is where, at least for me, the fact that we're a legacy firm really has some legs. The fact that we've been doing this for such a long time means that we're a known name. We're a name that people associate with a high level deliverable in terms of our ability to advise them. And I think that's the place where this, the fact that Warburg is Warburg really adds value for us.
That's a great answer, Fred. Bess, same question. The biggest challenges that you're seeing with this crisis, and what has surprised you the most?
Well, I'm just going to do this a little backwards. I just want to add on to what Fred said. From being a legacy firm, I think what we have as an advantage is, that trust is kind of this building of small moments over time. And we have, we've been around for so long, and we have agents that have been with us for decades and decades. And I have to say, throughout this, the one thing that has been incredible has been the emotion and connection with our agents and the engagement. They trust us, they believe in us, we're working with them, and they're the most important thing. So we have that, and it's been really essential right now. So that's been wonderful. And as far as the challenges, I think what was hardest for us was how quickly this whole thing unraveled. It was literally like I was in the office, and then it was like, okay, shut down. It totally, we knew it was kind of, there was talk of it, but it kind of, we were like trying to scramble a bit, because whoever thought that, my daughter, who's a senior, would be doing her classes right now in her room, and whoever thought, we couldn't even have drawn this. We didn't know. So that was a challenge to kind of scramble. But we've been able to keep it together, having calls, webinars, doing all the things we need to do. And, I love that saying that adversity is a terrible thing to waste. I think from this, there will be incredible growth. I know, Fred, that we will all come out better for this. We just have to kind of get through it. So I'm excited about the new normal for us.
Great.
But I think that point that Bess made about what surprised us the most, I think probably we'd all agree that the rapidity with which it just went from 0 to 60 is the thing that surprised us.
Well, look, we're humans, right? We tend to latch on to past experiences to kind of guide us the way, and let's just face it, none of us have experienced anything like this.
This is new.
Yeah, and it's new to all of us, and we're just adapting to it. Great answers. Rory and David. Rory, let's start with you. How has technology prepared your business for a moment like this?
Yeah, so I think, and Fred, I appreciate you recognizing us as a real estate company, because you're right, we are. We're also a technology company. I think this is a moment in time that actually, that dichotomy, this concept of it being a dichotomy, are you one or the other, Corona has forced that narrative away, right? Like, the companies that will survive, and the companies that will be able to provide their clients with the best experiences and the best service have to be technology companies. But you're not either or, right? Like, Amazon, are they a technology company? Are they a store? Are they a website? Like, it's not even really so much a question. My wife runs marketing for Alexander McQueen. I don't think people would consider Alexander McQueen a technology company. It's a luxury fashion brand. But every single day, every single conversation that she's having is about how they're using technology to help luxury clients purchase products in their store. So I think this—
Rory, do they make maternity clothes?
They do not make maternity clothes. I think this concept of, is a company a tech company, a real estate company, again, is sort of, it doesn't really align. For us, we're very fortunate that for the last number of years, we've been building technology products that just so happen to make it so that agents can work remotely, right? Like, we didn't build anything with the anticipation that we'd have to be working from home. We just built tools that agents asked for that could help them be more efficient in working with buyers and sellers and make more money. And so I agree with the sentiment of this happened very quickly. For us, we were fortunate in that it took us about 12 hours to mobilize the company to work virtually, because I've been hosting virtual office meetings with agents for the last number of years, right? Like, our agents have been using software for years. So this wasn't, I think, a big change on the process side for technology. Now, over the last couple of weeks, that's where we saw an opportunity to really double down. And so in the last couple of weeks alone, we've launched a tool that in 15 seconds can help agents make videos for their properties by just selecting a listing, takes all the photos, adds music to it, creates a video for them because clients want to see video. We've created virtual agent services so agents can do virtual tours, virtual open houses. We've added Compass Academy, which is accessible to anyone, not just Compass, which is online video training by top agents from around the country on how to grow your business, run your business, build your team, and do it in this environment. In 2 weeks, we're going to be launching video conferencing functionality within our CRM. There is so much that we're continuing to invest there, and it's not an either or. When we get back to being able to be interacting with each other in a healthy way, every single person is going to be looking forward to that, as are we. But I do think what it's going to do is it's going to allow agents to be far more productive and efficient. If you don't want to come into the office anymore, you don't have to. Maybe one day you want to stay home with your family. Maybe one day it's not convenient to go in and do something. If you decide that your client doesn't want to meet you for a listing presentation and you just want to send it to them digitally and it's fully interactive, maybe that's what you want to do. So I think for us, we're just fortunate that that is the business that we've been building all along. And we're going to continue to take our cues from our agents. And they are the ones who are telling us, we want tools that allow us to work effectively while not in our offices and in this environment. And so I think it's better to be lucky than it is smart. And I think we were very lucky to be in that position. And I think it's, proving dividends for us. We had the good fortune of being able to see nationally how this is interacting because again, we are in over 130 markets. And so, you're going to see almost like a portfolio effect in the United States. Some cities are going to open sooner. Some places are going to be accessible for others. And I actually think in that case, technology is even more important because how can you communicate and distribute that information? And so again, we feel lucky to be in the position we are.
Can I just say something, Noah? And I think the only thing that I would just disagree with you on, Rory, is the about not coming into the office. I think the most valuable commodity you have in real estate, besides your relationships, is information. And there's something about when people get together and talk and and they learn things from each other. They share info. They talk about open house. They talk about listings, things that haven't come on the market. And there's something about that is unique and special. So I do think you have to do the virtual stuff, but I would never take away the in-person coming into the office, talking to each other, because I think that's what you build upon. So I think it's never going to be replaced by, just calling each other up on the phone. I do think you need to engage with each other. I think that really matters.
I agree with you. I actually see when we come out of this more enthusiasm around being together. Like me personally, I said to my team before I was on this call, if I'd go work out of a cardboard box right now if you told me that was our office. Like that human interaction we're all dying for. But that should be the choice that people make. In the past, we were forced to be in the office and we were forced to be connected in a way because we didn't have technology. So some people, if they want to join that office meeting where they share listings and insights on properties that are coming to market and pricing, if they want to do it from the comfort of their bed in their pajamas on their computer, they should have the luxury to do that. And some are going to choose not to. Some are going to want to be in the office. But that is a choice that they should be able to make that, quite frankly, other industries made a long time ago. Bankers and traders have been working that way for a long time. So I think we can learn a lot from some of those industries on how we can adapt to what's going to be, a new world essentially until we have a vaccine.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what sticks, not only on the technology side, but you're going to see potentially a whole host of innovation on the Zoom type technology side over the next couple of years, taking it in all different directions and usability. But listen, I got to get David in. David, you have that same question for Rory. How is technology prepared your business for a moment like this?
Yeah, so I think I'll start off by saying, and I didn't realize that this was going to be maybe a minority view, but we've seen a ton of deals where the buyers are not seeing the properties at all, completely virtual. That's probably the thing that surprised me the most. So I think that's probably indicative of the fact that we have some of the tools and resources to allow that to happen. Now, I don't think that's going to be the new normal for the majority of home buyers, but I think if you're not seeing people buying virtually, it's probably more a comment on their ability to do so, because I've been really, really surprised by that. The second thing I'll say is that I think it's great, and we can sit and debate working in an office, working virtually, but that's really not that important. If I'm being totally honest, like video conferencing technology, this is par for the course. Everyone, that's standard. And to your point, Rory, it's like, in other industries, that's been the norm for a long time. So I think there's a shift happening in real estate, but come on, like how many agents work from home before this 6 months ago? So I don't actually see that as being a huge shift. I think the bigger shift is going to be in the technology for the client, for the buyer and seller. And that's an area where we are fully focused as a firm. This sounds like a humble brag, but I want to give context. I mean, Q1 2020, we had 3x the number of new sales contracts as Q1 2019. 3x.
Right.
We had maybe 30% more agents.
Can I just ask a quick question? What were the price points that you sold virtually at? I'm just curious.
Well, obviously anything hasn't closed yet. That's talking about going into contract, because it's only been 5 weeks. Anywhere from, I think the highest is 6, 7. So in that sort of like 7 range. Not as much under $1 million.
Okay.
I think not as much under $1 million. I think that it's what we're seeing is a lot of people who see the opportunity in the market. They're the way that the real estate market rebounds, right, is by opportunistic buyers taking advantage of opportunity. So being able to encourage that and sort of allow that to happen, facilitate those transactions, is what brings our market back.
That is really a transaction. It's kind of like that bulk sale that was done with Corcoran Sunshine Project. I think it was the water line for $28 million. That was an investor that saw an opportunity and is looking to do a transaction and take advantage of the price. And what you're talking about may be more transactional, but I do think that most of the time, the vast majority of the time, people who buy homes that they're going to raise their kids in, that they're going to, whatever, have babies in, soon get divorced in, whatever it is, those homes they're going to have to walk into, look out the window, touch it, feel it, smell it. I don't think, now this is me.
Bess, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I've been surprised by this. I'm seeing primary residence buying without seeing properties. Now, I do not think that's going to be the norm. I do not.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is a pent up demand that if you have the tools and platform to facilitate it, people do want to take advantage of the opportunity right now. And so that's what we're seeing. I think what's more important though is just generally what is the value that as a brokerage we bring to a buyer and seller. I think that with any recession, the common denominator is we see a flight to quality, right? Flight to quality in terms of what you're buying, in terms of what real estate investors are investing in. When the market is easy, people will list with their friend's niece who's done one deal, right? And list a $5 million property because it's like it's going to sell. It almost doesn't matter. When the market gets tighter, you see a flight to quality. And so I think that the buyer and sellers being a lot more discerning about who their agent is and what are the tools that agent can offer them. And I think if brokerages can't answer the question for their agents or give their agents an answer to the question, what can you do for me that no one else can do? They're going to be in real trouble, because I think that buyers and sellers are looking for more tangible value today.
And obviously they have to trust the person that they're working with. I think that's fundamental.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So David, can I ask you a question? Because I always think this is a really interesting issue. What can Triplemint do for buyers and sellers that nobody else can do?
Sure. Thanks, Fred. You teed me up perfectly.
And that wasn't on the document that we shared.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. So we use machine learning to predict what buyers are going to buy and what sellers are going to sell. So if we're representing a seller, let's look at it from that perspective. The typical process of a seller finding buyers or an agent finding buyers for their property, right, is people actually filtering properties to say, I go to a website and I say, I want a 2-bedroom in this neighborhood, in this price point. And, the reality is there's a huge difference in what people search for and what they buy. And when we are representing a seller, we're using machine learning to predict that difference. So we're tapping into buyer demand for people who are looking for not that type of property, because they may not have found it in the search results, but they're actually likely to buy a property like that. And so we're able to generate more demand. We have a whole pre-market platform where in the lead up to listing a home, right, we can take that home on a road show before the IPO. We're essentially dealing with behavioral economics in our industry. The reason days on market is the indicator of sale price is the human perception of demand. The property hasn't changed in value from 2 days on market to 10 days on market. But as a buyer, I perceive it's less valuable because I perceive there's less demand, right? So in that kind of a market where we're dealing with, how a buyer is going to perceive the supply side, the key is how do we make sure we have the most demand in place on day one, right? We don't start finding buyers on day one. So we're able to actually tap into all the buyers who are searching for a similar type of property before that owner is ready to list their home. So they're not missing the few months before listing in terms of the demand in the marketplace. And that allows them to then go to market with more demand in place. So last year, our average days on market for properties that went through our pre-market platform was 54. You're probably familiar that the average days on market across the whole market was 100. The reason is because we were able to tap into more buyer demand using technology. This is the kind of marketing that's being done in other industries. It's just not done in real estate yet. So that's the kind of thing that I mean when I say a flight to quality is how do we as the brokerage actually give our agents something unique that's going to help them better sell a home?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling how deep you can go with this big data machine learning stuff. It's really crazy. All right, let's get on because we got a lot of questions here. This is for everybody. Innovation is not just about technology. From a business model perspective, and I want to touch on a little bit of the back end stuff here that most agents don't see. So from a business model perspective, what changes have you had to make and what have you had to cut given the challenges in the economy? And Rory, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think in terms of business model, the business model hasn't changed. The business model has always been, how do you help agents be as successful as possible, right? If you, again, like for us, David was mentioning, buyers and sellers, like, again, our customer is the agent. I think the only customer of a brokerage is the agent. I think you can't have the end consumer, the developer, like you have one customer, you have to be obsessive and laser focused on how you create value for that customer. The way we think about that business is our job is to give agents every single type of tool. And those tools aren't just technology, they're technology, marketing, programs, support, whatever sort of fits into that bucket so they can then best advise their clients. So that model hasn't changed. And focusing everything that we build and create on helping them be more successful, I think actually is only being enhanced by what's going on. The things I mentioned in the last 5 weeks, I think we've launched more things to help agents make more money than we probably did the first 3 months prior. So that hasn't changed. In terms of cuts, I think there's two ways of thinking about it. Some businesses, every company is being affected by this, right? This is like not a moment in time to say like, oh, well, this company did cut or didn't cut. Every single company. Google, which has tens of billions of dollars of cash on hand, is making cuts, right? So this is something that is hitting every company. I just think the question is like, are you making cuts because of the short term, or are you making cuts for long-term investment? And what I mean by that is we've had to, unfortunately, ask members of our team to leave. We have cut back on things like corporate marketing. All of our employees have collectively taken a temporary salary cut, which to me, I'm actually incredibly impressed and inspired by, because for people to actually still believe and work as hard as they do in spite of that situation, which we've seen, I think is commendable. Every company has had to do that in some way, shape, or form. All of us have. And if you're not, then that is a scary place to be, because you need to be making those prudent decisions. Right. For us, every single one of those decisions was being made with this concept in mind. At some point, right now, we're all kind of the pause button's been hit for us. It's almost like we're all in a race. We were all running and some were going ahead or behind. and everyone said, stop. The race is being reset. At some point, we're going to get back out into whatever semblance of normalcy we have. And the gun's going to go off and the race is going to start. The way we think about it is, I want to be able to invest even more so our agents can get out as far in front in that race as possible. And so the cuts that we're making now are so that when we do come out of this, because we will come out of this, then we can invest more in building, whether it's software, marketing, programs, expanding, whatever it is for them. And I think we're going to look back on this moment in the same way we did, even though it's a different scenario after 2008, where this will be, these next couple of months will be the time where agents set themselves up to make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars over the coming years. And so the cuts we're making are purely for long-term investment. And again, I think if you have a bullish long-term view, which I think everyone on the call does, that's what you're thinking about when you're making cost decisions.
Good stuff. Fred, let's move on to you. From a business model perspective, what changes have you had to make, and what have you had to cut given these challenges?
I would agree with Rory that I don't think my fundamental business model has changed. Clelia, my daughter, and I have both worked very hard in recent years to make sure that we're both technology forward and still running the company in a way which provides our agents with what I still believe is the most important thing, which is on the ground experience from our owners and managers about how this stuff all works. Since every deal is different and every deal contains frequently more than we wish it did, human elements, I think this has been a moment where focusing on the way our experience and our ability to solve deal-related problems, that stuff has never been more important. And that's always been an area in which we've excelled. And that's not going to change. In terms of what we've cut, as Rory said, I kind of think we're all doing the same things. I was interested actually recently to see that one of the last firms to make cuts, which has just been making cuts in the last couple of weeks, The Real Deal wrote an article about it, and the headline of the article, and this is specifically to a point that Rory made it sound as if they had kind of won the sweepstakes because they had waited longer than anybody else to make cuts. And what I've learned from, I've been through a lot of tough times in my 40 years in the marketplace. And 30 of those years I've been running my own company. What I learned is that you, in situations like this, you cut fast and you cut as deep as you can to make sure that you live to fight another day.
Yeah.
And that's what we've done. We too have taken company-wide salary cuts. We too have furloughed employees. We too have cut back on a lot of non-essential marketing. We applied for and received a PPP grant. So I'm confident that we've taken the steps we need to take that will enable us to come out of this strong without having compromised the ability of our agents to do the stuff they know how to do. And you know, the thing about technology is it's always evolving. And because my daughter has been so involved in prop tech VC, we have guinea pigged a lot of new prop technology. And here's the other thing I've learned: 90% of it is useless. And it's really the other 10% that's going to advance the dime for you. So you've got to really, really think hard and research hard to make good decisions about that, because there's a lot of really snappy sounding junk out there.
Gotcha. Good stuff.
Tech cannot make qualitative decisions, Fred. You know, we know that. I mean, you need technology, as everybody agrees. It empowers our relationships to do the things we need to do, but just having one without the other is not helpful.
Bess, from Brown Harris, any business model perspective, any changes going on over there?
Well, yeah, there are changes similar to what Rory said and what Fred said. We've, cut print incredibly. We furloughed people. We've had some salary cuts. So we've done all that. But we have, just fortunately, the last 11 months been working on a back-end platform to mainstream all of our services, from listings to referrals to marketing, agent services. Salesforce has created it, and it's been a huge project, and we're about to launch it. So that's been incredibly helpful. It comes at the perfect time. But we're, like Rory said, we're on pause right now. And so once we can start to show again, I think we'll start to have to shift into the new normal.
Right, that can't come soon enough. Hey, David, I want to go to another question. I want to get off that question and go to the next one here. We got a ton of agents watching.
I just want to touch on one or two things, because
sure.
I don't want to nitpick on words, but we are far from on pause. This is the time for our agents to be doubling down in working on their businesses versus in their businesses. And I think that the amount of agents I've talked to over the years that have said, right, if I could just get a break from my clients, right, I could build so much in my business. This is that moment. And so I've been challenging our agents to think of this as an even more active phase, where they need to be working even harder. And I've seen that, and I've been really excited about that. I mean, we've had to make some cuts. I think we let go of 2 people. We had to furlough a few people. But the biggest thing was we didn't cut any agent assistance, any agent benefits. And the reason for that is because I think this is going to be one of the most important times in agents' careers to be doubling down on their focus and coming out of this having built a bigger business. So my co-founder and I went to 0 salary. That helped allow us to do that. And I just think that I agree with you, Fred. I mean, we did this 5 weeks ago now. And we're now in a position where we can survive and thrive for literally years. And so that's even in our worst case scenario. And so that's the kind of thing that I think having raised outside capital allows us to do really effectively. And the other thing on the technology piece, just to your point, Fred, technology has to be a core competency. If you're looking at using outside services, then it's almost always going to, I would say, more than 90%. And I think the key is that we're one of the very few industries that has thought about outsourcing technology and innovation away from the companies that are doing core business. And it's kind of the concept Rory talked about earlier. I totally agree. There should be no differentiation between being a real estate company and a technology company. It's not 2 different things. Imagine in other industries if the banks were like, hey, let's outsource our trading technology and our trading algorithms, right? No, that has to be proprietary. And so I think that we're going to face a phase right now where I think companies that can invest themselves in their own technology to build it the right way are really going to be more successful.
Time will tell.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. Very interesting. Hey, David, I want to stay with you here. We have a ton of agents watching this right now, and I know I've heard a lot of agents are struggling right now. What is your firm doing to support our agents?
I guess I was kind of answering your next question anyway. I mean, I think the biggest thing for us is just, is just not, the first is not making any cuts because on the agent side, because that's, agents are getting hit really hard right now. And so being able to continue to invest heavily into our agents, I think is really important. Training, education, we have training every single day. It's been really motivating. And then, I totally agree with Fred's point earlier. I think having really strong sales leadership, deals are more complicated than ever. And we've got some really great senior leaders in our company that are in the weeds on a daily basis. And so that's been really, really big for us. And then I just generally think, helping agents with their frame of mind, right? And really looking at this as an opportunity to grow their business. I think those are all huge. And then, there's other things we've talked about with Black Diamond and machine learning and all that stuff, but I'm not gonna backtrack into that.
Right. Okay, Rory, same question. What is your firm doing to support agents today?
Yeah, look, I would say every single thing that's possible. Like, the concept of like, what are we doing today versus like tomorrow? I just think it's, again, our whole company was just founded on this concept of what is it that agents need to be successful, and as fast as humanly possible to the highest level possible, build that and create that. So as it relates to like the current environment, again, as some of the things I mentioned in the last couple of weeks, all the technology that we've continued to release on top of, the technology that we've already had for a number of years, and that we'll continue to be releasing. We'll probably release more technology for our agents over the next couple of months than we probably have in the last 2 years combined. So that pace will absolutely increase. In terms of connectivity within the company, I think this is a really important thing. We touched on this. We've had, since literally early March, every single sales meeting, every single conversation in the company transitioned to virtual. The beauty of that is it allows senior leaders to join those conversations. Robert, every week is probably joining somewhere between 75 to 100 sales meetings around the country. I'm probably talking to a week somewhere between 500 to 750 agents. That is possible because of technology and video and the leverage it creates. And I think another big thing, David mentioned it, now is that time to invest. Again, I get back to this concept I said of like, when business restarts, what is that going to look like? And so one of the things that we're doing is with each one of our agents, we're actually sitting down and coming up with strategies of how do they leverage this to take advantage of the time they have now. And for everyone, that's different. For some people, that's, hey, I actually have time and the moment to breathe, so I can actually invest in learning how to use software and things like that. For others, it's, I want to build a team. So can you help me actually build the right team? For others, it's, I want to rebrand. There's all different ways to do that. And so we're sort of taking a bespoke approach to each one of those. And again, I think we're just going to continue to invest more and more there. One thing I will say that I think has been very helpful is, I say this all the time, I don't want to lead with the answer. And neither does myself, Robert, anyone in our company. I look to our agents. Like every single day, I'm asking them, what do you want and what do you need to be successful? And let's build that. I'd actually prefer it not to be my idea, because I prefer it to be their idea. They're doing it every day. They are the expert. But I'd say the three biggest things we're hearing are connectivity to the community, technology, and then lastly, strategizing on how to build and structure teams. And so we're going to continue to do that.
Awesome. Bess, same question. What is your firm doing to support agents today?
What are we not doing? Like Rory said, we have webinars every day. There's one going on right now while I'm doing this one. We're doing education, but like Fred is doing, we're talking to them, walking them through deals, helping them with everything, and making sure that they're okay. A lot of agents, from a financial standpoint, you have to remember I think they should all, come up with a business plan and work hard and do all the things that everyone has suggested. But as I said, not everybody has a boat. There are agents who haven't saved funds, who don't have the means, who can't pay bills, that are the breadwinners. And that is where I feel for people, and I'm trying to help them because they don't have the ability to sustain this for much longer. And so not everybody can just, chill and think everything is fine. Some people are really struggling financially. And so we're being an ear for them. We're supporting them. We're available to them. We're going to get them through this. And, we're doing all the same technological things. I think all of our agents have learned how to do live streaming. We're doing video, they're learning how to do everything. So that's been a big plus in this. They've become very savvy in certain aspects of technology. But there's a real struggle going on for real estate professionals because a majority of them need to pay bills and don't have a trust fund and don't have, this income that will help them. So we're very cognizant of that, and we're very sensitive to their needs right now.
Yeah, good stuff. Fred, anything you want to add here? Last one.
I mean, I would say, speaking for myself, I'm not doing much that's all that different from what I've always done. My relationship with my agents has always been extremely personal and extremely hands-on. And in that sense, I think, to Bess's point, this is a moment when people just really need support.
Right.
There's a lot of financial anxiety out there, and there's a lot of that anxiety that comes from uncertainty out there. And yes, there's no question but that agents need tools to successfully relaunch their businesses once they can be out in the world again. But I would say more than anything else at the moment, they need reassurance. They need to know that we're there for them, that we're available to talk to them, not only about their business, but about, I've had a series of people in my company who have been ill. I have several people in the company who have lost parents during this time. And the degree to which, I've made it a point with the people who have been ill to send them food, because I know more than anything else, especially if you're an ill person with a family, you're trying to figure out how you feed them, trying to offer support to the people who have lost parents without being able to see them before they died or attend funerals. I mean, there's been a lot of really tragic stuff that's been going on. And more than anything else, I'm just there for them, which is the way I've run the company from day one.
Yeah, that's great, Fred. And that's one reason why we all love you. David?
It's just, you have to be a good human being at these times. I love that, Fred. I think that's a great answer. And I commend you and second that. We all have to step up as human beings.
Yeah, Fred, you're 100% right. All right, we got, I'm not going to get to all the questions. I got one last question here, and then I want to get to the lightning round because we're running out of time. David, I'm going to start with you here. Do any of the new strategies and processes that your company has adopted have staying power after this? What sticks, what doesn't, and will they replace the old way of doing things?
I think there's a lot of temporary things happening right now. There's no question, right, that seeing a property is better than not seeing it in person, for 99% of buyers. I think there's some temporary solutions. I think the bigger long-term shift, and it's maybe more conceptual, is just this flight to quality. And buyers and sellers being more discerning. What can you tangibly offer me, right? That's unique, that I can't find anywhere else. And also flight to quality with agents. I mean, so we hire very few agents, and we've taken the approach of much more slow growth. I mean, we're targeting having a few hundred agents in the 10 biggest cities, which is the total opposite approach of the brag about how many agents we have growth strategy. And so, I think that's going to be a shift in our industry as well. I think having the 80-20 rule, where the majority of agents don't do a lot of business, I don't think that's going to exist going forward. Because I think that, we're seeing, this is not like a V-shaped, something happened in the market and, we just are going to get back to normal next week.
Yeah.
This is going to be a long, drawn out recovery. And I think that, human behavior is fundamentally changing forever. And I think that, the approach of having fewer great agents and really focused on the value proposition as a firm that you offer to the agent and that they can then offer to their buyer and seller to stand out is going to be more and more important than ever.
Right. Yeah. Agents are going to have to up their game. I mean, they really are. They're going to have to up their game, and the buyers and the sellers are going to demand it.
The good thing is we're seeing that. And I think that's across all four of us would agree that, I know I've been blown away by our agents and agents at other firms really stepping up and responding with a lot of resilience, which has been fantastic to see. Yeah.
And it's got to be on the technology side in terms of adoption of new technology. And thankfully we've gone through this because, well, I don't say thankfully we've gone through this. It's been a terrible situation, but a lot of people, a lot of agents, what I mean, has come out of this now very familiar with technology that they have not been familiar with before, that they can now use to engage their clients in a completely different and unique way. Rory, same question. Any new strategies and processes that you guys adopted do you think is going to stick around and have staying power?
Yeah, I think a lot of it will actually. And again, it's a question of choice. It just means there's going to be more choice on how people do their business. I think we thought before Corona that there was this conversation of like, is it technology? Is it again, I keep getting back to this idea. It's just about how an agent can most successfully run their business. I mean, just think about this for a moment. If we would have said that agents would be doing virtual open houses, right? Where right now we have a process where Compass agents that are able to, in markets where you can actually get into a property, usually it's single family homes, can go in, host an actual video call on their phone and have multiple people join in to do a virtual open house. That concept 3 months ago would have seemed a little far out. But 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, why shouldn't that be possible? I talked about meetings. I'm able to join any meeting with any agent in our company anywhere in the country. In the past, I used to have to go to different offices and, Robert can get on the phone with anyone, right? Like we're onboarding agents. We've had well over 250 agents join the company in March. It was all done virtually from the confines of their home. And so I'm not saying that these things are going to be the norm. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But in order to be the most successful, you have to have those tools in your toolkit. And so I 100% believe that is going to be part of the way we do things. I think of listing presentations by Zoom, right? We have agents right now that when they're pitching a seller are able to have myself, Robert, our head of luxury marketing, anyone in the company join the listing presentation. In the past, that wasn't possible, right? So I think as you think about that, this is going to unlock so much more that agents can do. And some will choose to do it in certain circumstances and some won't. But I think those that have the most choices will be the most successful. So 100%. Watch, and again, for the cues of where it's gonna go, watch other industries that are already ahead of that. Right, like the first company out of this, right now in Hollywood, production is halted, right? Like people aren't actually on set making new content. Most studios don't have the money. The second that's allowed, which company do you think is going to actually have the most ability to do that? It's Netflix, right? So studios will start saying, oh, wow, actually they're doing it this way. We could do it this way. It doesn't mean that that's the only game in town. And so I think you're going to see this in so many different industries. And in a world where, I'll sort of end with this, in a world where everyone was safe and we had a vaccine and our health was not compromised, how nice would it be for all of us to say, you know what, it's Friday, it's 70 degrees, I want to stay home today and be with my children, or, not have to go into the office, or in markets that we live in where you have to drive and sit in traffic, but I'm going to run my whole business from home.
Yeah,
that's a world that we should create. And we're excited.
I don't like that world. I'm not into that world, Rory.
Regardless if you don't like it, I think it's coming. I mean, I don't know how we don't come out of this with people at least, every once in a while utilizing this technology.
It is some of that. It's some of that.
We got our first active debate. Could I just acknowledge that we've got our first active debate with everyone fighting over each other?
I think that it's some of that, not all of that. And look, maybe I'm crazy. I don't look at it as work. I look at going into the office as I can't wait to get there. because I love what I do and I love the people that I work with. I am so grateful for that. But I think there's something about not being in your pajamas in bed, eating a donut, working. There's something about getting dressed, showing up, and engaging with people. Now, I get it that we have to do some things technologically, and I respect that, but there is a balance. There is something to be said, and one size does not fit all. I know plenty of our clients would never buy a piece of property virtually. It'll never happen. I mean, they have to see it many times, and so do their wives, and so do their kids, and et cetera, and vice versa. But there is going to be some virtual stuff. I get it, but I think it's a mixed bag. It's not one, all that way or this way. I think it's going to be a mixture, in my opinion.
Good
So
stuff.
I have a couple of questions. First of all, Bess, even if I get dressed, can I still have a donut?
Yes.
Well, wait a second. Aren't we all wearing pajamas right now?
Well, I was just going to say, that was my second question, Noah, is that who's dressed all the way down?
What?
There you go. This is great. Hey, Fred, you want to just chime in on this last question here?
I will chime in quickly.
Good.
First, I was going to say to David's point, listening to you guys some of the time, it just makes me feel very old. You want to stay home with your children. I want to stay home with my grandchildren. But I would also say I've been around the block often enough to know that much as I wish it were otherwise, I don't see that the 80-20 rule is ever going away. We'll probably lose a lot of agents as a result of this, but then somehow 20% of them will still be making most of the deals. That just seems to be a karmic inevitability. And we all hope it's going to change after every crisis. And in the end, we have reversion to the mean.
That's right.
That just seems to be what happened.
But isn't that such a pessimistic view though? Like, doesn't that come from the consumer not truly understanding the value of an agent? Like,
and if
all buyers and sellers deserve an amazing agent. And the reality is there can't be a million amazing agents.
If I can only say that I was probably, and please don't take this the wrong way, I was probably promoting that precise perspective when you were in high school. And I have found over the years that really promoting the notion of professionalism in our industry has led us to see elevation in both the tools we offer consumers and the tools we offer our agents. It has enabled our best agents to be even more effective, but has it stopped the run of people getting real estate licenses who have watched $1 million listing and believe that if you have enough product in your hair and a snappy suit, you can make $1 million a year? No, I fear it has not diminished that group at all.
Okay.
Not that easy, Fred. Are you sure? All these years, I still haven't figured that one out.
Not that easy.
I don't disagree, but Fred, like it's up to the brokerage. Brokerages have historically not innovated, and that's the reason. We go back to the status quo. Like, I don't disagree that if we come out of this and there's no sort of change in the brokerage landscape at all, then yeah, we're going to go back to the status quo. But I don't think that's the case. I think that the firms that step up, and that can be firms that already existed. It's not just new versus legacy. I don't agree with that. But the firms that step up and truly add more value are going to shift that paradigm. And I agree, it's a long and slow process. It's not something that happens overnight. But the more value that we as brokerage heads can bring to the table and arm our agents with, the more good agents will gain more ground, and the more the consumer will become educated and realize, like, oh, obviously I can just do it that way, and that's way better.
And I think, honestly,
agree.
David, Bess and I probably have both been fighting this fight with trying to eliminate underperforming agents and promote the ability of performing agents or agents on whom we see a strong runway to performance in terms of enabling them with all the best tools. And all I can say truly is from your mouth to God's ears.
Amen.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the skepticism, but I don't think anyone's brought technology to the forefront the way it has in the past few years, and that's been a catalyst in industries that hadn't changed in 100 years in other areas. And
I'm not suggesting that the industry won't change. I'm just suggesting that I think you're going to find that the 80-20 rule is fairly deeply rooted in ours, as in most sales industries. And technology can probably move the needle. Whether it'll move the needle past 70-30 remains to be seen.
Very interesting.
We're never going to be in the perfect world, but we're already seeing the numbers.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Okay, guys, with this perfect world, let's get to the lightning round, and we're going to let everyone go here. This is 3 questions, guys. You guys got 30 seconds or less to answer these questions. David, let's start with you. What are you most excited to see fall by the wayside due to this crisis?
Oh, man. Unnecessary meetings. We all need to be more efficient as people.
Okay, unnecessary meetings. Rory, any thoughts on this? What are you most excited to see fall by the wayside due to this crisis?
I think a focus on things that don't matter.
Okay, good stuff. Bess, any thoughts?
Yeah, dirty offices.
All right. Fred?
Underperforming agents.
Okay. Question, let's go around again. Fred, we're going to start with you. Prediction time. What month and year will transaction volume finally get back to where it was in January and February before this all started? What month and year will we be back to pre-corona?
January or February 2021.
Yes.
I concur. I agree with Fred.
Rory?
The same month we get news that a vaccine will be distributed in the coming weeks and months. So let's hope that's January, February 2021.
Ooh, I like that one. And David?
I honest to God was going to say January 21.
And I'm of the opinion that this is going to be like a year, just like 9/11 was. We're going to have a sharp dislocation down. It's going to ultimately come out in the data in about 6 months, 7 months from now. And I think in about a year from now, we'll probably recover that dislocation spike, whatever that is. One last question, and we're going to let everyone go. The best meal that you've had under quarantine. David, best meal.
Spaghetti and meatballs, homemade.
Always a classic. Rory, best meal under quarantine.
Parmesan crusted salmon.
Oh, God, that sounds awesome. Bess.
I have to say, too, because my daughter has been cooking, she made lemon pasta, which was out of this world. And she also, the other night, made this vegetable fried rice that was amazing. So I have to give her props for both of those.
I love it. Fred?
I am going to have to pat myself on the back and say that it was the cheese souffle I made last week.
Yum.
The cheese souffle. We didn't see that coming. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for your time. This has been fantastic. Rory Golod, David Walker, Fred Peters, Bess Freedman. I am Noah Rosenblatt of UrbanDigs. Thank you all for joining in. Stay safe. Be well. This will be recorded and blasted. And good luck, everyone. And let's get out of this sooner than later.
Guys, stay
Thanks,
safe.
Noah. You rock.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, everyone else.